Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is part 8 of the CCNA exam practice question series. In this video, I will be covering the topics and questions that will help you pass the CCNA certification exam. I have compiled a 30 practice questions to get you prepped and primed for the success on the CCNA certification exam. But hold on tight because it's not just about answering questions. We will also be explaining the concepts that will make you feel like computer networking superhero. So if you are ready to ace the CCNA exam and elevate your career to new heights, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss any future content. So let's gear up and dive into the success. Question number 1. Which type of organization should use a collapsed core architecture? And the options are option A, large and requires a flexible, scalable network design. Option B, large and must minimize downtime when hardware fails. Option C, small and needs to reduce networking costs currently. And option D, small but is expected to grow dramatically in the near future. And the correct option is that the collapse architecture is required to be used by small that needs to reduce networking costs currently. And this is how the collapse architecture looked like. So basically we have a three-tier network architecture in which we have three tiers of access, distribution, and core. And in the collapsed core, we combine the core and distribution into a one layer that is core. So basically, we reduce the hardware footprint. Here we can see that in this case, we have two routers in the distribution and two in the core, while in the collapsed, we have only two router in the collapsed core. So in this way, this architecture is suitable for small organization because it reduces the hardware footprint as well as the management and operational as well as upfront costs. Question number 2, which plane is centralized by an SDN controller? We are talking about software defined networking controller. Which plane is centralized by the SDN controller? And the options are option A, management plane, option B, control plane, option C, data plane, and option D, services plane. And the correct option is option B, control plane. So this is the explanation. So in software defined networking, SDN, the control plane is centralized and managed by the SDN controller. The controller makes decisions about how packets should be handled and then sends instructions to the network devices, which act upon those instructions in the data plane. The data plane, also known as the forwarding plane, is decentralized and exists in network devices like switches and routers, where the actual packet forwarding happens based on the rules provided by the control plane. The management plane handles device management and monitoring, which is typically still decentralized, so an SDN controller can provide insights into it. The services plane refers to the higher level services in the network, but it is not directly managed by the SDN controller in terms of packet forwarding and routing decisions. So this is how the SDN architecture looks like. Here we can see that the control plane is basically centralized by the controller. Traditionally, a network device such as switch contained both the control plane as well as the data plane. While in SDN, the control plane is centralized in one plane inside the controller, while the data plane is distributed. So each of these switches they contain basically data plane, while the control plane is only available centralized inside the controller. Question number three, an implementer is preparing hardware for virtualization to create virtual machines on a host. What is needed to provide communication between hardware and virtual machines? And the options are option A, hypervisor, option B, router, option C, straight cable, and option D, switch. And the correct option is hypervisor. This is what this is how hypervisor looks like. So we have the hardware, and in order to do virtualization and install virtual machine on this hardware, we need the hypervisor. So basically, hypervisor is an operating system. You can call it the virtualization operating system or virtualization OS. And when you install this hypervisor on the bare metal hardware, it enables you then to install virtual machines over the hypervisor, and it gives you the capability to provide the hardware to these virtual machines as per the requirements. And then, unlike the traditional hardware where you only installed one operating system on a server, you can then install multiple virtual machines, and each machine can have different operating systems. So that's the beauty of virtualization, and this is made possible through the hypervisor. Question number four, which quality of service tool is used to optimize voice traffic on a network that is primarily intended for data traffic? And the options are option A, FIFO, option B, WFQ, option C, PQ, and option D, WRED. And the correct option is that the PQQS tool is used to optimize the voice traffic over the network that is optimized or intended for data traffic. So PQR priority queuing is a quality of service tool that gives higher priority to certain type of traffic, such as voice, ensuring that this traffic is processed before other types of traffic. This is especially useful in networks that are primarily intended for data but need to optimize the performance of voice traffic, which is sensitive to delay and jitter. So the voice traffic is prioritized because the voice conversation is required in real time. The data such as the email or other type of data may be delayed, but the voice must receive in real time. Otherwise, the conversation or voice communication doesn't make sense. Question number five, what are two characteristics of a controller-based network? So again, we are talking about software-defined networking, and we have to choose two options of the SDN, two characteristics of the SDN, and the options are option A, the administrator can make configuration updates from the CLI. Option B, it uses northbound and southbound APIs to communicate between architectural layers. Option C, it moves the control plane to a central point. Option D, it decentralizes the control plane, which allows each device to make its own forwarding decision. And option E, it uses telnet to report system issues. And the correct options are that the controller-based network or SDN uses northbound and southbound APIs to communicate between architectural layers, and it moves the control plane to a central point. So this is how the controller-based network or SDN architecture looks like. So the two characteristics or two properties of this network architecture is that it uses northbound and southbound APIs. So the southbound API is used by a controller to talk with the architecture or data layer, or used by the controller to talk with these network devices that are basically switches or layer 3 devices or router. And the southbound API is used by the controller to talk with the applications that are in application layer. And the second characteristic of this is that the control plane is centralized by the controller. So the data plane is decentralized as we already discussed in the previous question. The data plane is available in all these switches. So it is in fact not centralized at a central device but is decentralized, while the control plane it is centralized and available inside this controller. So that are the two main characteristics of the controller based network or software defined network. Question number 6. What is the benefit of configuring port fast on an interface? And the options are option A. After the cable is connected, the interface uses the fastest speed setting available for that cable type. Option B. After the cable is connected, the interface is available faster to send and receive user data. Option C. The frames entering the interface are marked with higher priority and then processed faster by a switch. And option D. Real-time voice and video frames entering the interface are processed faster. And the correct option is that when fast is configured on an interface, it has the effect that after the cable is connected, the interface is available faster to send and receive user data. And how this is done? So basically, the port fault is a Cisco feature that allows an interface to bypass the standard spanning tree protocol states, including the listening and learning, and transition immediately to the forwarding state when a device is connected. This reduces the time the port takes to become active and able to send and receive user data. It's commonly used for end-user devices like PCs or servers to ensure quick connectivity after a cable is plugged in or a device is rebooted. Question number 7. A router R1 has learned route 192.168.12.0/24 via ISIS, OSPF, and RIP routing protocols and internal EIGRP under normal operating conditions. Which routing protocol is installed in the routing table? So a route that is 192.168.12.0 is learned through four routing protocols, including ISIS, OSPF, RIP, and internal EIGRP. So which routing protocol route will be actually installed in the routing table? And the options are again the four routing protocol. Option A ISIS, option B RIP, option C internal EIGRP, and option D OSPF. And the correct option is option C internal EIGRP. And why this routing protocol will be selected? So this is the explanation. When a router learns the same route from multiple routing protocols, it selects the route with the lowest administrative distance for the routing table. Here's the default administrative distance for the mentioned protocol. So for the internal EIGRP, it is 90. For OSPF, it is 110. For ISIS, it is 115. And for RIP, it is 120. Since internal EIGRP has the lowest administrative distance, it will be used for installing the route inside the routing table. So since internal EIGRP has the less administrative distance, it is the protocol that will install the route onto the routing table under normal operating conditions. Question number 8. What is the capability of FTP, File Transfer Protocol, in network management operations? And the options are option A, it encrypts data before sending between resources. Option B, devices are directly connected and use UDP to pass file information. Option C uses separate control and data connections to move files between server and client. And option D offers proprietary support at the session layer when transferring data. And the correct option is that the FTP uses separate control and data connections to move files between server and client. So the FTP file transfer protocol uses two separate connections. One is control connection that is used to send commands and responses on port 21, and the other is data connection that is used to transfer the actual files on port 20. This separation allows FTP to manage the control flow independently from the actual data transfer. And this is how the FTP looks, FTP connection looks like between an FTP client and an FTP server. So it basically maintains two connections. One is for, as we studied, for data, and the other is for control. So the data, let me get that. Yes, the data link or the data connection uses port 20 on the server, while the control connection it uses port 21 on the server. Question number 9. Which type of API allows SDN controller to dynamically make changes to the network? We already studied about the northbound and southbound APIs. So the question is that which of those APIs actually allows SDN controller to make changes to the network? And the options are option A northbound API, option B REST API, option C SOAP API, and option D southbound API. And the correct option is option D southbound API. And this is how it's look like. This is the southbound API that is used by the controller to make changes to these network devices inside the infrastructure or data plane layer. Question number 10, refer to the exhibit. So this is the exhibit. Which next hop IP address does router, it is basically router use for packets destined to the host 10.10.13.158. So we have a destination host of this 158. So which next hop is used to reach this destination? And we have these next hops 10.10.10.5, in option B 10.10.11.2, in option C 10.10.12.2, in option D 10.10.10.9. So if we look at these routes, we will first need to determine that where this uh, uh, where this host is reachable, that this host is reachable through which route. And if we see it is not reachable through this because this route ranges from 0 up to 1 to 7. It is also not reachable through this because it ranges from 1 to 8 up to 143. It is actually reachable through this because this route ranges from 144 up to I think 159, and the next hop is basically this dot 9. The correct option is basically that this host is reachable through the next hop 10.10.9 because the route that make this host reachable is through this next hop. So this is the explanation that this subnet 10.10.13.144, this one, it has this 144 broadcast address, 15 network address, and 159 is broadcast address, and the range is from 145. Usable host range is from 145 up to 158. So 158 is the actual host IV that is available in this route, and that why this host is available through this next hop that is dot 9. Question number 11. Which WLC, that is wireless LAN controller management connection pack, is vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks? And the options are option A SSH, option B HTTPS, option C Telnet, and option D console. We are talking about these are all basically This protocol can be used for management, remote management. SSH traffic is basically encrypted. HTTPS traffic is also encrypted. Telnet sends traffic in plain text. It is not encrypted. Console traffic is basically not sent over the network. Console is when you connect to the device directly through the console port. So the telnet is susceptible or vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attack because it sends traffic in clear text. As we can see in this, if this user or administrator is using telnet and configuring this device, when the user, let's suppose he or she enable the password, let's suppose Cisco on this device, this password can be eavesdropped or can be seen by the man in the middle because the text is sent in clear. Question number 12. Which action is taken by the data plane within a network device? And the options are option A, forwards traffic to the next hop. Option B, constructs a routing table based on a routing protocol. Option C, produces CLI access to the network device. And option D, looks up an egress interface in the forwarding information base. And the correct option is that the data plane basically forwards traffic to the next hop. So the data plane, also known as the forwarding plane, is responsible for the actual forwarding of packets to their destination based on the information contained in the forwarding table or forwarding information base. It processes the incoming packets and decides where to send them next. Question number 13. Which characteristic differentiates the concept of authentication from authorization and accounting? And the options are option A, user activity logging, option B, service limitations, option C, consumption based billing, and option D, identity verification. And the correct option is that the authentication is different from authorization and accounting because authentication is used for identity verification. So authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a user, device, or system, ensuring that the entity requesting access is who it claims to be. This is distinct from authorization, which determines what an authenticated user is allowed to do, service limitation, and accounting, which involves tracking user activities such as user activity logging and often includes aspects like consumption-based billing. Question number 14. Which value is the unique identifier that an access point uses to establish and maintain wireless connectivity to wireless network devices? The options are option A, VLAN ID, option B, SSID, option C, RFID, option D, wireless LAN ID. And the correct option is option B, SSID. So the SSID, that is service set identifier, is the unique identifier or name used by an access point to establish and maintain wireless connectivity with wireless network devices. It is essentially the network name that clients see when they search for available Wi-Fi networks. Question number 15. Refer the exhibit. This is the exhibit. We have these routing protocol and they have installed the routes or learned these routes via these interfaces. Each each routing protocol has learned this their corresponding routes to respective interfaces. So the question is, packets received by the router from BGP enter via serial interface at 209.165.21.1. Each route is present within the routing table, within the routing table, which interface is used to forward traffic with a destination IP of 10.1.1.19. So the question is that which interface is used, these are the interfaces, to forward the traffic to this destination. And if we see that this destination 1.19 is available in this route, it is also available in this route, it is not available in this route, and it is also available in this route. So the uh, route that will be used to forward or to reach this host, or the interface that will be used, is basically this one. And the reason is that this route contains the longest prefix. So that's why the correct option is basically the interface F0/0, and the reason is the longest prefix. Remember, the first criteria to select a route is to select the route with the longest prefix. The second criteria is, let me list them down. The first one is longest prefix. This is very important, and you may encounter multiple questions inside your exam. This is also important in your practical networking. The second is smallest AD, or smallest administrative distance. So in this case, the EIGRP has the smallest administrative distance. If all the routes were having the same prefix, then we would have selected the EIGRP route because it has the shortest or smallest administrative distance. And the third one is the third criteria. If there is a tie between these two, then the third one is smallest metric. So this number is basically the metric. So in this case, if all the routes were having the same prefixes, and let's suppose if they were from the same routing protocol and their AD were the same, then we would have selected this route because it has the smallest metric. So I hope this is clear. This concept is very important, and you people should remember this priority criteria for selecting the route. Question number 16. Which protocol uses the SSL? SSL is Secure Socket Layer. In the options are option A, HTTP, option B, SSH, option C, HTTPS, and option D, Telnet. And the correct option is option C, HTTPS. So the HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, is a secure version of HTTP that uses SSL Secure Sockets Layer to encrypt and decrypt data transmitted between a web server and a web browser. This ensures that data is protected from eavesdropping and tampering. Question number 17. Which two spanning tree states are bypassed on an interface running port fast command? And we have to choose two options. We already studied this type of question. The options are option A, disabled, option B, listening, option C, forwarding, option D, learning, and option E, blocking. And the correct option is option B, listening, and option D, learning. So when a port or an interface is configured as port fast, these two states are skipped by the interface when it is connected to the device, and the interface directly changes its state to the forwarding states without first going into these two states. That's why it is called fast. Remember, it transitions fast because it skips these two states. So when port fast is enabled on an interface, it allows the port to skip the listening and learning states of the spanning tree protocol and immediately transition to the forwarding state. This is particularly useful for ports connected to end devices such as computers or printers to allow them to access the network more quickly. Question number 18, refer to the exhibit. This is the exhibit. The link between PC1 and the switch is up. We are talking about this link, but it is performing poorly. Which interface condition is causing the performance problem? And the options are option A, there is a duplex mismatch on the interface. Option B, there is an issue with the fiber on the switch interface. Option C, there is a speed mismatch on the interface. And option D, there is an interface type mismatch. And the correct option is option A, there is a duplex mismatch on the interface. We can see that on the PC side, the interface is in full duplex mode, while on the switch, the interface is configured as auto. So how this creates a problem? So a duplex mismatch occurs when two connected devices are configured in different duplex modes. This may happen, for example, if one is configured for auto negotiation while the other one has a fixed mode of operation that is full duplex. No auto negotiation. In such conditions, the auto negotiation device correctly detects the speed of operation but is unable to correctly detect the duplex mode. As a result, it sets the correct speed but assumes half duplex mode. When a device is operating in full duplex while the other one operates in half duplex, the connection works reliably only at a very low throughput. Question number 19. Which PoE mode, that is Power over Ethernet mode, enables powered devices detection and guarantees power when the device is detected? The options are option A, dynamic, option B, static, option C, active, and option D, auto. And the correct option is option B, static. Question number 20. What is an expected outcome when network management automation is deployed? And the options are option A distributed management plane must be used. Option B, software upgrades are performed from a central controller. Option C, complexity increases when new device configurations are added. And option D, custom applications are needed to configure network devices. And the correct option is that in network management automation, software upgrades are performed from a central controller. So when network management automation is deployed, one of the expected outcomes is that software upgrades and other management tasks can be performed from a central controller. This centralization streamlines operations, enhances consistency, and reduces the time and effort needed to manage network devices. Question number 21. Which two components comprise part of a PKI, that is public key infrastructure? Choose two, and the options are option A, pre-shared key that authenticates connections, option B, RSA token, option C, CA, that is certification authority that grants certificates, option D, clear text password that authenticates connection, and option E, one or more CRLs, or that is certification revocation list. And the correct options are that the two components of PKI are CA, a certification authority that grants certificate, and one or more CRLs. So a PKI, public key infrastructure, is a system that provides cryptographic services. It consists of several components including the certification authority, that is CA, an entity that issues digital certificates, These certificates verify the identity of a person or device and contain public keys. And the certificate revocation list, that is CRL, a list of certificates that have been revoked. This is important because certificates can be compromised or lost. Question number 22. What causes a port to be placed in the error disabled state? And the options are option A, nothing plugged into the port. When nothing is plugged into the port. Option B, link flapping. Option C, shutdown command issued on the port. And option D, latency. And the correct option is that the link flapping causes the port to be placed in the error disabled state. So link flapping occurs when a network link repeatedly goes up and down. This can be caused by a various factors such as physical cable damage, faulty network devices, or software glitches. When a port experiences excessive link flapping, it may be placed in the error disabled state to prevent further disruptions to the network. Question number 23. Which layer 2 switch function encapsulate packets for different VLANs so that the packets traverse the same port and maintain traffic separation between the VLANs? And the options are option A, VLAN numbering, option B, VLAN DSCP, option C, VLAN tagging, and option D, VLAN marking. And the correct option is VLAN tagging. So VLAN tagging is a layer 2 function that encapsulates packets with VLAN information, allowing multiple VLANs to share the same physical port while keeping their traffic separated. This tagging is typically done using IEEE 802.1q, which inserts a tag into the Ethernet frame to identify the VLAN. VLAN numbering, VLAN DSCP, and VLAN marking do not specifically refer to the encapsulation of packets for VLAN traffic separation on the same port. Question number 24. Which two network actions occur within the data plane? Choose two options. And the options are option A, add or remove an 802.1q trunking header. Option B, make a configuration change from an incoming netconf or PC. Option C, run routing protocols. Option D, match the destination MAC address to the MAC address table. And option E, reply to an incoming ICMP echo request. And the correct options are option A, add or remove an 802.1q trunking header. And the second correct option is option D, match the destination MAC address to the MAC address table. And the explanation is that the control plane handles actions such as option B, that is making configuration changes, and C, that is running routing protocol. So the B and C are basically the control plane functions which are not directly involved in forwarding packets. Option E, replying to an incoming ICMP echo request, is a function of the data plane, but in this case, the correct answers are focused on packet forwarding. That's why the correct answers are A and D. Question number 25. Which QoS or quality of service traffic handling technique retains excess packets in a queue and reschedules these packets for later transmission when the configured maximum bandwidth has been surpassed? And the options are option A, weighted random early detection. Option B, traffic policing. Option C, traffic shaping. And option D, traffic prioritization. And the correct option is option C, traffic Shaping. What is traffic shaping? Traffic shaping is a quality of service technique that manages network traffic to ensure that certain type of traffic receive a guaranteed level of bandwidth. When the configured maximum bandwidth is exceeded, excess packets are retained in a queue and rescheduled for later transmission. This helps to prevent network congestion and ensure that critical traffic is not delayed. Question number 26. Which interface mode must be configured to connect the lightweight access points in a centralized architecture? And the options are option A, wireless LAN dynamic, option B, management, option C, trunk, option D, access. And the correct option is option D, access. So in a centralized architecture, the lightweight access points typically connect to the controller through access mode interfaces. The access mode is used when the AP is on a specific VLAN and does not to carry multiple VLANs, which is common in most centralized wireless architectures where the AP only needs access to a management VLAN to communicate with the wireless LAN controller. Question number 27 refer to the exhibit. This is the exhibit. Which two commands must be configured on a router R1 to enable the router to accept secure remote access connections? Choose two options. And the options are option A, transport input telnet, option B, crypto key generate RSA, option C, IP SSH public key chain, option D, login console, and option E, username Cisco, password 0, Cisco. And the correct options are option B, crypto key generate RSA, and option C, IP SSH public key chain. And the explanation is that for these two options, crypto key generate RSA, this command generates an RSA public private key pair on the router. The private key is used to decrypt data encrypted with the public key, while the public key is distributed to authorized users or devices. This is a fundamental step in setting up SSH. IP-SSH public key chain. This command specifies the location of the public key chain file on the router. This file contains the public keys of authorized users or devices. When a user attempts to connect via SSH, the router compares their public key with the ones in the chain. If a match is found, the connection is allowed. Question number 28. Which type of network attack overwhelms the target server by sending multiple packets to a port until the half-open TCP resources of the targets are exhausted? The options are option A, SYN flood, option B, reflection, option C, teardrop, and option D, amplification. So we are talking about denial of service attack, and in this case, the hint is that half-open TCP connection, and the correct option is SYN flood. So what is SYN flood? A SYN flood attack is a type of denial of service attack where the attacker sends multiple SYN packets to a target server's port. The server responds with a SYN ACK packets and waits for the client's ACK to complete the handshake, but the attacker never sends the acknowledgement. As a result, the server's half-open TCP connections remain unclosed, and eventually the resources are exhausted, preventing legitimate users from establishing connections. So this is how a TCP SYN flood attack look like, or you can say the SYN flood attack looks like. So we have the attacker, it has a bot, it sends spoof SYN packets to the target website. This means a web server or an application Spoof means that the source IP addresses are spoofed to some random addresses, and the bot sends lot of SYN packets. The target responds to the spoofed source IP addresses. Since the addresses are spoofed, there is no, so the SYN act is three-way handshake is that you send a SYN, the server responds with a SYN act, and then the client sends the act packet to complete the three-way handshake. But in this case, this attack, the ACK response or the S packet is ACK packet is never sent because there are no legitimate clients to send the packets. And so the target is overwhelmed, all the resources are consumed. And when a legitimate user or client sends a SYN request or a request, the target denies the request because it has no more resources to oblige or response to the legitimate user, and thus this attack becomes a denial of service for the legitimate clients. Question number 29. What is one reason to implement LAG, that is link aggregation group, on a Cisco wireless LAN controller? And the options are: option A, to increase security and encrypt management frames; option B, to provide link redundancy and load balancing; option C, to allow for stateful and link state failover; and option D, to enable connected switch ports to failover and use different VLANs. The correct option is that the link aggregation group on a Cisco WLC is used to provide link redundancy and load balancing. So the link aggregation group or lag on a Cisco wireless LAN controller allows the bundling of multiple physical Ethernet links into one logical link. The primary benefit of implementing lag or link redundancy, that is, if one physical link in the bundle fails, the traffic is automatically redirected to the remaining links, ensuring continuous connectivity. The second benefit is load balancing. Traffic can be distributed across all available links in the lag, improving overall performance and throughput. And this is how it looks like. So this is the WLC or wireless LAN controller, and this is the switch. So we have multiple physical links that are bundled together through leg to find or to form one logical link, and this helps in redundancy. So if one physical or two physical interfaces fail, there is no disruption to the services, and the traffic is distributed or forwarded across the remaining links. It also increases throughput. So let's suppose if these links are of 1G, then the four physical links means that we have a 4G throughput. So these are the benefits of forming link aggregation group on a Cisco wireless LAN controller. Question number 30. Which action implements physical access control as part of the security program of an organization? We are talking about physical access. And the options are: option A, configuring a password for the console port; option B, backing up syslogs at a remote location; option C, configuring enable password on network devices; and option D, setting up IP cameras to monitor key infrastructure. And the correct option is option D, setting up IP cameras to monitor key infrastructure. The explanation is that physical access control involves measures that restrict or monitor physical access to systems, buildings, or sensitive areas. Setting up IP cameras allows for monitoring key areas, helping to prevent unauthorized access to critical infrastructure, which is a common method of implementing physical access control. Option A, that is configuring a password for the console port, and option C, that is configuring enable password on network devices. are logical access controls that secure access to devices via network interfaces, not physical access. Option B, that is backing up syslogs at a remote location, is a security measure related to a data integrity and disaster recovery, not physical access control. So that's all for this video. Please like, subscribe the video. I will upload the next video on CISCO CCNA practice question very soon. So stay tuned and see you soon.